Welcome everybody to the first ever Now Showing podcast. I'm Cam.
And I'm John.
And this is the first time we have recorded anything together in quite some time. This damn pandemic has made things extremely difficult. But we were thinking about doing a podcast, an audio podcast for quite some time to sort of go in coalition with our videos. We thought it'd be a great way, for anyone that's got that long drive to work or needs something to listen to at night when they're going to bed, and maybe you don't, have the time, or if you're in a vehicle you can't actually watch, or at least I hope you're not watching video while you're driving. But so we decided that this is something we want to test out and get into, and for our first podcast, there's no better time to talk about Call of Duty than right now. The time of us actually recording this is the 8th of November. I don't know when all of you will hear it, sometime shortly, but we are, 5 days technically from launch, but I think in John and myself's head, we're more so considering it 4 days, because that midnight launch really still feels like Thursday to us.
Because we'll still be up. As soon as the game launches, we'll be playing. It's not like the next day we're diehard, we can't wait. We'll be sitting there prior to midnight, hitting refresh, just waiting.
Yeah, like a bunch of 12-year-olds will be there and up probably most of the night. So we thought it'd be a good time to talk about Call of Duty, and definitely go into the newest Call of Duty that's about to drop, Black Ops Cold War. But before that, we thought, let's just talk about some Call of Duty in general. It's that wonderful time of year. And there's a lot of history now with Call of Duty, all of the years it's come out, all of the years it's been played. Obviously, John and myself didn't start playing Call of Duty together until Black Ops 4, but there was definitely a long history before that. And that's kind of, I think, the first topic that we want to jump into here, and that's sort of our own personal earliest memories of Call of Duty. So, John, I'll ask you that first. What's the earliest memories you have? How did you get into Call of Duty? What made you want to play Call of Duty?
Well, I've always really enjoyed playing first-person shooter games. Probably my second favorite type of video game after RPGs. I can remember playing GoldenEye. I was real big into Halo, so it was inevitable that I was going to play Call of Duty. And my earliest memories are really playing the earlier Call of Duty campaigns, not so much the multiplayer, because if you remember, a lot of the Call of Duties, they came out on PC prior to console. And there was a time that I was big on PC, but then I kind of started playing more console games.
Yeah.
I didn't update my PC, so I really couldn't play it. So it was more playing the campaigns and stuff, and then eventually, obviously, multiplayer on console. But I can just remember just feeling like you were there, in the war. You could do tactics and that kind of stuff in the campaign, and it was just mind blowing. As I can't remember how old I was when that came out, but I just remember because there's one thing to just play a first person shooter, play multiplayer, run around killing your friends and stuff, but there's another thing when you a Call of Duty does so good is their campaigns are so engrossing, you
putting
feel
you in the moment,
you feel for the characters. It's not just senseless just run around shooting. There's a good underlying story. You want to actually whenever there's been so many deaths throughout that you're just holy shit, really. I can't remember which Call of Duty it was, but I believe after the one mission, I can't remember the one person, but the other one was Ghost. The guy's coming off of the airplane, and just out of nowhere, you're just you don't see that coming. They're good for those surprises. So that's kind of my earliest memory is more the campaign.
Yeah, for me, I didn't get into the first two Call of Duties. I didn't play games on PC, and I wasn't too big into war-based shooters. I played some Medal of Honor 2, Storming the Beaches of Normandy and whatnot. But my first Call of Duty that I actually played was Call of Duty 3. I didn't play any multiplayer aspects of it. The only reason I bought it was very shortly after I got my Xbox 360. I was at a GameStop and I was asking an employee there, what game should I buy that'll really show off the new graphics of the 360. So he told me to buy Call of Duty 3. I bought it, took it home. The graphics were beautiful for that time, but I played probably 3, maybe 4 missions on the campaign, got bored of it, went back to playing Halo at that time, and that was pretty much it as far as getting started with Call of Duty, and I didn't expect it to go any further. But once Call of Duty 4, the OG Modern Warfare, came out, I really didn't pay any attention to it upon its release. What ended up happening was a good friend of mine called and asked if I wanted to hang out. He happened to be at his uncle's house, and he told me to come down, that they were all playing this new Call of Duty game, and it's amazing. You can play online, you can create a class, customize it however you want with weapons and perks. And I had no idea what he was talking about. So I went down, and there was him and his uncle's friends all sitting in the living room, crowded around playing this game. Only took me watching them play, maybe 2 games or so to know that this was something special.
Yeah.
His uncle and his friends ended up leaving to go out to their garage. They were working on a car or something, and it was just me and him sitting there. So once he handed me the controller, it was difficult at first because it was on PS3, and I used the 360. So the buttons were inverted. The shooting and aim down sights was L1 and R1. And the equipment throwing was L2 and R2.
Oh, see, I never knew that there was a difference back then.
There was. So I was like, it threw me off, and obviously I wasn't going to play well regardless.
Well, what's funny, real quick, is I now play...
You play that way? Oh,
yeah.
God, no, I couldn't even imagine that. But yeah, after playing a handful of games, seeing what you could do, how you create a class, I was hooked, and I knew I was obsessing that I needed this game. So within a few days, I had purchased it on the 360, and the rest was history. I mean, that game took over my life at that point. I mean, I'm not afraid to say it. It was every day was playing Call of Duty, focusing Call of Duty, and when I couldn't play or was away from it, that's what I was thinking. I wanted to go back and play, and obviously it would only continue to get worse for the next few years as Call of Duty then made its way to all of my friends and everyone that I knew. By the time Modern Warfare 2 came out, everyone that I knew was playing Call of Duty, and it felt like that was life. And yeah, I mean, that was definitely my earliest memories of playing, and haven't looked back since. Did you ever go to any of the midnight releases for COD when it was in its biggest stages, or were you more of I picked up the game the next day? What did you typically do?
For me, I never went to like the midnight releases on Call of Duty. I went to a couple of the Halo 1 and Halo 2. I went to the midnight release.
How were those?
For those. They were like at my GameStop where I was at. It wasn't like anything crazy.
Chaotic.
No, but it was kind of one of those like there wasn't chaos, but there was that camaraderie of like me and my buddies. Like it wasn't just me going just to get it. Like it was a whole event. Like we were playing the first one up until, and then left to go get it, and just like the drive over, talking about like what we can't wait, and like just that anticipation, and like the drive back. Like you could like it was literally only like a 10-minute drive to get back, but it felt like it was taking forever.
Yep.
Even though I'm pretty sure we were going well over the speed limit to get back. So.
Oh yeah. For me, obviously I didn't play the original Modern Warfare until after it came out. With World at War, I got it on the day of, but did not go to a midnight release. My first midnight release was Modern Warfare 2, and I'll never forget that day for a plethora of reasons. But there was a group of us that went, myself, my brother, my wife, who we were just dating at the time, and some friends. And we decided we were going to go to the midnight release at our local GameStop at like 10 a.m. We're going to make a whole day out of this. We get there, to our surprise, there's already one group sitting outside the door of about 8 friends, all in lawn chairs. And we, of course, didn't even think to bring chairs. So we spent the day sitting on the pavement and standing, out in the cold November weather. And the first portion of the day, same thing like you did with your buddies with Halo. We sat there, we talked about what we couldn't wait to do, maps we wanted to play, guns we wanted to use, how excited we were staying up all night, yada, yada, yada. As the day went on, the lines started to grow and grow and grow. By the time you got to about 7, 8 o'clock at night, there were literally hundreds of people in line. I've never had saw anything like that before in my life. And I mean, it was just a range of adults, teenagers, kids, and they also had the bright idea of having Red Bull show up in a Red Bull truck and handing out free, handing out free Red Bulls to children. And then GameStop gave everyone these little gift bags, or at least a lot of the people got these gift bags that had like stickers. And the worst thing is they gave out little rubber bouncy balls, which then everyone began throwing up in the air, and people were getting hit in the head. They were landing on vehicles. I remember at one point there was people leaning on, because we were parked in one of the first stalls up against the GameStop. We had drove over my dad's Jeep, and there were people leaning on it in line. And I remember one of the GameStop employees, they were standing outside because they were doing these trivia contests, and they said, hey, could you kids quit leaning on that Jeep? You're going to end up making the alarm go off. And, of course, I had the keys on me. So as soon as he said that, just to be a jerk, I made the alarm go off. And then, everyone started laughing. And then, they were running these trivia contests where they were giving out merchandise. And the trivia questions were all campaign questions related to the original Modern Warfare. And, of course, I didn't know any of the answers. But I'll never forget there was this heavyset kid that was next to me. And every single question that they asked, he knew the answer. But he had a very soft voice. So they never would hear his answer, so they always picked somebody else because everyone was just shouting answers. And this poor kid, no matter what, he knew the answer. This was a diehard campaign Call of Duty player. And so finally they asked one question, and I can't really remember what the question was. I forget to this day, but they were giving out this big Modern Warfare 2 giveaway poster that had a Jeep on it. It was a green and black poster. It was huge, and I still have it to this day. And they asked this question, and he said the answer, and of course they didn't hear him. So I just flat out stole his answer, screamed it at the top of my lungs, and they pointed at me, and they handed me the poster. And if you'd have saw the death stare that this
I could only
kid
imagine
gave me, for me stealing it, and I kind of felt bad. But anyways, the best / worst part of this night is we finally get to midnight. We're going insane. We get in, we get our game. We drive home, same thing, well over the speed limit, and it feels like it takes forever. That night, in my bedroom, at my parents' house, we had 3 TVs set up, one for myself, for my wife, and for my one buddy, Cody. So 3 of us were going to be playing in my room, and then my brother had his Xbox set up in his room. And so we rush into the house. Everyone's running in, open the game, get it in the Xbox 360, which with the 360 you didn't have to install your games. You could just fire them right up.
Oh, you mean there's no copying?
Yeah, no copying, no dreadful install times. You could just get everyone on. So we get everyone on into the party. We're ready to go. And the very first map we go into, I'm trying to blank. Afghan, I think it's called. It has the plane, the crashed plane in the middle, in the desert, and countdown's happening. We're all edge of our seat, adrenaline rush. Countdown ends, game begins. We take 3 steps forward, and I just happened to catch in the left-hand part of my screen. My brother's name at the time was Ghost We Became. That was his Xbox name. It said Ghost We Became has disconnected from the game. And I'm like, wait, what? And it wasn't a second later that I hear my brother in his room just screaming from the top of his lungs, you would think he was being murdered. That's what it sounded like. And we're all in my room like, what the hell just happened? All of a sudden, my brother just burst into my room. He's 7 years younger than me. So Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, I think, came out in 2009. So he would have been, very early teenager, if that. And he screamed, I got the red ring of death. I got the red ring of death.
The infamous red ring of death.
Yeah. And I thought he was joking, but then I'm like, why would he joke? So literally, he stood in line for Call of Duty from 10 a.m. till midnight out in the cold, got home, and in the very first match of Modern Warfare 2, he got the red ring of death, which for those of you who may not know this, maybe too young to remember, there was a glitch that happened, a malfunction in 360s that could happen at any time, where if you had this red ring shine over your power source button, your system was fried. And so his system fried literally in the first game of Modern Warfare 2. I'll never forget it. And I felt so bad. I remember I went out to get a drink at 3 a.m. and he was just laying in his bed looking up at the ceiling like the most depressed look you could ever see. And I was like, hey, why don't you go in and you can play some games on my name? And he was just out of it. He's like, no. And he just laid there. And I seriously think he laid there staring at the ceiling for the entire night. There was a good ending for him to this story, though, because the very next day when I woke up, he wasn't there. And all of a sudden, he comes walking in the door with a brand new Xbox 360 Elite, which the Elite was still very new at that time. He convinced my grandmother to take him after telling his sob story, and she bought him an Xbox Elite right there on the spot. So he did end up making out in the end, but I still, to this day, I'll never forget the fact that he got the red ring of death literally after waiting over 12 hours.
And I mean, that's one of those stories that, for an OG gamer like myself, you can feel that story. It's not just oh yeah, that sucks. You understand why.
Over 12 hours in line in the cold, and even if he could have at least played for a few hours, it still would have been terrible.
Yeah.
But at least he could have got his footing in the game, enjoyed it. But literally the first game you go into, your system breaks. Like, that's the worst luck of any kind. But yeah, from that point on, every single year with Call of Duty, up till I want to say Black Ops 3, did midnight releases for. And the next year with Black Ops was even crazier because the line was probably doubled of what Modern Warfare was. They had to go down into an additional parking lot, into an advanced auto parking lot near where the GameStop was full of people. Total insanity. Really, the midnight releases, at least for the first handful of years for Call of Duty, it wasn't just like you were going to get a game. To me and to my crew that I played with, it was like a holiday. You know, you look like, oh my God, the midnight release is coming. Get everything together. Everybody better be ready to go at this time in the morning. If you're not ready, we're leaving without you. We're standing outside all day. It's like being outside of a football game and tailgating all day. I mean, it's that same excitement, that same energy. And you just go home then, and we would play like till 5, 6 in the morning like it was nothing. I'd sleep for maybe 2 hours, wake up, and be ready to go again all day. Man, I wish I could still do that now. It sucks getting old. But it was just, it was so much fun to do the midnight releases and to be part of it. And then honestly, for me, the one of the experiences that really crushed midnight releases for me was with Call of Duty Ghost, because we were waiting outside all day, and then at 5 o'clock they decided to let all of these people that just randomly walk into the store just start forming a line, while us that were outside the door, who had been there since that morning, they didn't say anything to us. So they just all of a sudden, this was the first year they started giving out group numbers, so that way if you got a group number you could leave and then come back. So they let all these random people that walked in the store get the first group numbers, while us who were outside since that morning had to wait. And I flipped out, went off. It was bad, really bad, and it wasn't too long after that we stopped doing midnight releases, because at that point it became sort of pointless to do them. Honestly, digital's the way to go now. I mean, I hate to take away business from any retailers, but honestly, what's the point of standing out in the cold when you can buy a game digitally and have it right in your comfort of your home at midnight and not have to drive back?
You don't have to drive, and then you can, whatever the Call of Duty or game that before the one that's coming out, you can sit there and play that with your buddies, and then like right before like it's gonna launch, you're already in game chat. You're just like, you still have that like anticipation and just like hanging out with your buddies and stuff, waiting for it to come out. So I mean, that was always the best part of like the midnight releases and stuff, was just like the experience. And like you said, they kind of robbed you of that with like the taking the tickets and that kind of stuff that they do now.
So, I mean, we're talking about now, memories, the history of Call of Duty. Obviously, at this point, there's a lot of Call of Duties to go through. So, I think it would take too much time, or maybe it would be best to dedicate another podcast to go through each Call of Duty one by one. But I think it would be a great topic for another podcast. Let us know if it's one in the comments you want to hear of our ranking of maybe say worst to best CODs of all time, and vice versa. But just a quick overview thought here on the spot with all the Call of Duties you've played. And I know, have you played every one since the original Modern Warfare, John? I know there was like a period where you sort of got away from Call of Duty.
No, I haven't played all of them.
You haven't played all of them, but you've played a majority of them. But I played a
good bit of them, and then in recent years, I got back into it.
Yeah, you're fully engulfed back in it. But okay, so just going off of the ones you've played, just quick, sort of off the cusp, some of your favorite weapons of all time that you can think of. And obviously, if we really went in and looked at the guns of each game and stuff, we could do a much more detailed version of this. But just off the top of your head, some of your favorite guns you can remember from past or present, and maps as well.
I mean, you can obviously just go with like in today's standard, like what the meta guns were. But like there's some other guns like I really like using, because I've always been a fan of using marksman rifles. So there's always been like the carbine was always one of my favorites from there. And I've always liked using pistols, even though like it can sometimes be something when you're looking at pistols, you got to go with the Deagle.
Oh yeah.
As I mean, it's just a classic that like the recoil on it just feels so natural and so fun to just like, especially if you can string together like when you're, because I have always been a run and gun. I've never been the type to like just sit there and camp. I'm not real fond of like sitting there with a sniper rifle or just waiting for someone to run by. Like I like doing run and gun, so like either having like an SMG with like a pistol and like you're just running through the map, you down a couple people with like an SMG and then you're like, oh shit, I'm out of ammo. Instead of trying to reload, you just switch to the pistol and then you just drop like 3 people right after that. There's just such a cool, good feeling of doing that.
Yeah.
So for me, like some of my favorite maps are more like the smaller maps.
Okay.
Some of the like more cliche ones, honestly, kind of like firing range.
Oh yeah.
Wow, what was it? Wetwork or what was the one that was on like
The original Modern?
Yeah,
Wetwork was the one on the ship.
on the ship.
Yeah.
That one was always fun. It was a little annoying because like that was the one where you just spawn and just toss grenades
Yeah.
and like right off the spawn. So I mean that was kind of annoying. And you also had the people that would snipe up in the towers that overlooked. But I mean, like I like more chaos. I like a fast paced, which is kind of why, like, which we'll get into this a little bit later, but a little preview why I'm not the biggest fan of the new Modern Warfare and why I can't wait for Cold War to come out, because it has that more fast paced, boots on the ground, run and gun.
Oh yeah.
Also, why I think what was it? Infinite Warfare, was that the one that introduced like the wall running and stuff?
Well, no,
that
Advanced Warfare
Advanced was the
introduced
wall
it,
running.
yeah.
Infinite was kind of
Took it to the
getting
most
it,
extreme.
yeah.
Yeah.
and so like I don't like that. It works in some games. I just feel like it shouldn't be in a Call of Duty. Like
I agree.
What is it, Titanfall? Like that, it was amazing. But in Call of Duty, it needs to be boots on the ground. Like
100%.
It should just be kill streaks that are basically what's like the chaos. You shouldn't be able to get into a tank. Like I felt like in Modern, like ground war could have been incredible if you weren't able to get into tanks.
I agree.
But to get back, like I mean, you had like what was it, the Galil. Always like you can't not talk about Call of Duty guns without talking about like the M16 or like the AK. Like those are like classic
Standard, yeah.
like Call of Duty guns. But if I was to say my all-time favorite gun throughout the entire franchise, probably would have to be, because like I said, I'm a run and gunner, so like I tend to gear more towards SMGs over like assault rifles. I gotta give it to the P90. I mean, I love the P90. Like it just feels so good.
Yeah.
The fire rate, the sights, and it's one that's just kind of every time they've used it, it's just been like my go-to. It feels so good. Even in Modern Warfare now, I still use it and I still love it. But yeah, so I would have to say the P90 and then probably the Carbine and the Deagle. Those were like the 3, because I would also run and gun with a how some people do quick scoping with sniper rifles. I can never do that, but I can quick scope with like a marksman rifle with iron sights. It's just for whatever reason, once you put the scope on, like I just couldn't do it. But if you just give me iron sights,
there is a satisfaction.
I can like
feeling,
run around,
to
run and gun with that.
Using them with iron sights. Yeah, I agree. If I was to limit it down, I'd probably limit it down to 3 guns for me. And this is just off the top of my head. If I really sat and thought about it and wrote all the guns down and things like that, it may change. But the P90, 100%. The original Modern Warfare, that version of the P90 is probably my favorite. That was my go-to gun on the original Modern Warfare. I love the map Block. That was a map that was very much not one of most people's favorites in the original Modern Warfare. A lot of people probably even forget what that map is. It was a map, I think it was in Russia. There was 2 abandoned apartment buildings just side by side where you could look across each. It was snowing. There's a statue, like a courtyard in the middle. And the reason why I love that map so much is because most people would snipe on that map. They'd sit up in the second floors of these abandoned hotel and they would shoot across. Yeah. But I would just run with the P90 and just go to each building over and over again and just kill the snipers over and over again. It was such a great feeling to do that. So the P90 from the original Modern Warfare, and like, even in the future games that it would, be part of, even with this past year's Modern Warfare, I enjoyed the P90 as well. The Scar from Modern Warfare 2, That was my favorite gun on that game and one of my favorite guns of all time, especially with the extended mag on
How do
it.
you feel about it now?
Man, I was looking forward to that gun more than any gun with the new Modern Warfare because I was hoping it would be like it was in Modern Warfare 2, and they really dumbed that gun down, for lack of a better words, and they never did anything with it the whole year. If you think about it, there were so many guns that had ups and downs during the year of Modern Warfare, especially with Warzone, but no one ever started to use the SCAR. There was never a moment in time where the SCAR got a buff that people started using it in Warzone, and one of the biggest reason was the clip size. They never gave you an extended mag that was worth using, and it wasn't powerful enough to kill multiple people in one clip.
Yeah, it gave you 30, I think, was like the max.
And it's just horrendous. But in Modern Warfare 2, it was unbelievable. I would get nukes with that gun quite a bit, and absolutely loved it. And then I definitely would have to say the Galil from Black Ops 1. That was my go-to weapon in the original Black Ops, and I absolutely murked with that gun for sure. Got on very high kill streaks with it, as well as a lot of people I'm sure did as well. And there's a lot of other guns I can think of. The AK-74U from that same Black Ops, the original Black Ops, was unbelievable until they nerfed it. And throughout the years, the Honey Badger on Call of Duty Ghost, when that game first released, was insane until they nerfed it. There's a lot to think about. And as far as maps, yeah, I mean...
The AK-74U, that was the one that, like, if you used the suppressor...
If you used the suppressor and extended mags, it just made it unstoppable. And then they nerfed it and made it so that you can't put both of those attachments at the same time. And it wasn't nearly as good. But as far as maps, yeah, I'm some of the traditionals: Firing Range, Jungle, Nuketown. Honestly, Black Ops 1, in my opinion, has the greatest maps of all time. It's not my favorite Call of Duty of all time. It's up very close to the top if we were to do a ranking, but it's not my favorite of all time. But I do think it has overall the best maps. I mean, you're talking the original Nuketown, Firing Range, Jungle, Summit. You know, all the maps that Treyarch consistently brings back every single year, and there's a reason for it.
Yeah, the Treyarch maps, I just feel like I prefer better. I just think the design, the color palette, everything. Like for me, I would pick a Treyarch map over any of like the Infinity Ward / the other ones that do the Call of Duty.
If I was to ask you, just on the spot here, if you had to pick what you think is the most overrated Call of Duty of all time, and what's the most underrated Call of Duty of all time, what do you think? Like, which one do you think gets so much credit and hype, but when you really look at it, it's not nearly as good as people say? And then which one would you say most people absolutely hate and despise, or maybe it just gets so many mixed reviews, but you actually really enjoyed it?
So we had kind of mentioned this earlier, and I was kind of thinking about it the other day. The campaign for Advanced Warfare.
With good old Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, it gets like, because of how traditional Call of Duty people hate like the multiplayer, the campaign kind of gets also shit on because like no one really wanted to play anything or have anything to do with that game. Yeah. So looking at it in that aspect, I would say that's the one that gets overshadowed and is underrated, but solely just for the campaign.
Gotcha.
Because if you kind of look at like the history of Call of Duty, like you have the campaign players, the multiplayers, and then you have the zombie players. And really, the more you look at it, it's more multiplayer and zombies. The campaign players are still there, but it's not nearly as big of a following as it used to be.
Yeah.
So and like that's kind of where like the campaign started to get like overshadowed by everything else. So I would say not so much like an actual Call of Duty game that is underrated or overshadowed. I'd say more the campaign aspect.
Okay.
And I would say probably like for me the most overrated is, it's a hard one for me. Like I have a lot of fond memories on all of like the classic ones. I would say the most overrated one is the current one that we're in, Modern Warfare. Yeah. I just think people like give that game too much credit.
If it wasn't for Warzone, the game would be dead.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like the maps are just bland. There's so many issues with it. The balancing on it is just god awful. Like you can't use any other guns other than the MP5, the
Growl.
the Growl,
What's the
the
shot?
M4,
The shotgun.
and then obviously
the R9 shotgun.
Yeah, the R9 shotgun. Like it's literally M4 and shotguns. Like that's all you need. Like there's no reason to like run anything else, and like you feel like you get penalized if you try to use anything else.
Exactly.
So,
and I 100% agree with you as far as Modern Warfare 2019 being the most overrated game. I dare anyone to go on Twitch and see how far you have to go down to find somebody streaming the multiplayer, because it's only popular because of Warzone. And I think even Warzone has its issues. Don't get me wrong, Warzone is a lot of fun, and there's so much that I feel that there's so much potential still of what they can do with it. And as long as they can start to make Warzone run better on console, which we hope for with the new next-gen consoles, and I think, love it even more.
yeah, it's the balance.
But strictly going off the multiplayer, Modern Warfare 2019 may have the worst multiplayer of all time, excluding like Infinite Warfare and that, because I don't even like to count that game as a Call of Duty. That's the only Call of Duty since the original Modern Warfare that I didn't play, because I could give two shits about it. But as far as Modern Warfare 2019's multiplayer, it's literally horrible. I mean, when the game's getting ready for launch and you hear the developers do a sit-down interview where they say that the maps were made with safe spaces in mind so that less skilled players can feel safe and comfortable playing their game, which literally translates to our maps were built so that people can camp, never move, and feel safe when you have to bust through the door, that they can kill you with their Claymore shotgun. And that's what that multiplayer was and still is to this day. The maps are horrific. I understand they were trying to get away from the traditional 3-lane. Wouldn't mind that if you did a mix-up, some traditional 3-lane, some not. But the fact that you put doors on every building, you have 1,000 windows to try to look through, it completely makes moving irrelevant.
And like also the other thing, like not even so much like the camping, like the map layout. Like I'm all for having a large map, but like the way they made the maps, like you might not have 3 lanes, but you still had certain lanes that like people went. So you have this giant map, and like you would spawn. Like if you die, you spawn. And by the time you run back to get back where everyone is, like they just really didn't utilize like the play area to like how it like to its full extent. Like there's too many dead spots.
And like you mentioned, the weapons completely unbalanced. Never would fix them. The communication between the developers and the fans was horrific this year.
Was there even any?
No, it was terrible. Yeah, just really, this game had a lot of potential, but it just really fell flat. There were beautiful graphics, a really good new engine, amazing guns that were in the game. Like, all the guns you would want to be in the game were there, but they were unbalanced. The audio, as far as the guns and sound effects, was amazing, other than footstep audio. But it didn't pan out, and then, like I said, if it wasn't for Warzone, it'd be dead. So I agree with you 100%. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 is the most overrated game, but I'll also shout out another one just for something different here. And my pick for most overrated and underrated is going to probably make everyone listening very upset. Just hear me out, though. So I'm going to say the most overrated game other than Modern Warfare 2019. Don't hate me for this, because let me preface by saying it's not a bad game. It's a great game. It's an amazing game, but I just don't think it's top tier, because when I watch a lot of countdown rankings and videos, people have the game I'm about to say as their number one on almost every list I watch.
Yep, I know where you're going with
and
this.
So for me, when I hear a lot of people, they say that the greatest Call of Duty of all time is Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And I don't agree with that. I think Call of Duty Black Ops 2 was a very fun game. It was a very competitive game, and it had a lot of great features. But when I look back at that game, I don't think it had the best guns of all time in a Call of Duty, and I certainly don't think it had the best maps of all time, and I don't even think it had the best kill streaks of all time. I just think it was a very solid game, but it also had a lot of issues. It definitely was one of the earliest games where I started to notice skill-based matchmaking. It was one of the first Call of Duties.
That doesn't exist.
Yeah, it was one of the first Call of Duties to implement skill-based matchmaking and lag compensation. That's what I meant to say there, lag compensation. And it was one of the first Call of Duties that let you see the connection bar of people you were playing with. And there was times where that game was literally unplayable. The connection was so bad. So I think that it's definitely one of the better Call of Duties of all time, but I think it's overrated in terms of most people thinking it's number one. And as far as my most underrated Call of Duty all time, I'm going to catch probably even more hate for this one. I think the most underrated Call of Duty of all time is the more recent Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Because I think Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is one of the best Call of Duties ever made. Once again, don't hate me, but Blackout was unbelievable. It was so fun. The only reason it didn't take over the Battle Royale scene, I mean, it did in its first early run, but is because it couldn't compete with a game that was free to play like Fortnite, and it didn't feature crossplay, so you didn't have that expansion to it there. But the amount of things you could do in Blackout, the missions to unlock characters, the events they had, the limited time modes, the zombies being throughout the map, and the Blythefather events, the different camos, customization, the color patterns in that map, the different areas based off of former Blackout or Black Ops landmarks or multiplayer maps, amazing. The multiplayer, we had a lot of fun, John, playing that multiplayer, setting up as Torque with the shields and the barbed wire, or calling in your attack dog as Nomad and hearing somebody blow up from your trip mine. I love the specialist. I loved all of that. We got to Prestige Master in that game because we played a lot of multiplayer, and we sure as hell played a lot of Blackout, and it lasted us the entire year playing Blackout. We didn't get bored with it. The only reason I think people hate on that game is for two reasons. One, it didn't have a campaign, but to be honest, that didn't matter to me. And number two, and I agree with this one, Activision's greed of making that game in many ways pay to win with putting all of their new weapons behind loot boxes, and especially making them guns OP, like the Stingray, which was unstoppable when it came out.
Don't even mention that gun, because you got it. You got lucky.
I got
it
like
very
the
early.
First
like crate that you opened to get it, and like I chased that for
months.
right
about
before,
a month, really.
literally right before they were gonna nerf it. I finally got it, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, everything was behind a paywall, and I understand if you don't like the game for that reason, I can completely concur. But when you look at it as terms of how fun was Blackout, how innovative was it? It was Call of Duty's first battle royale. The multiplayer with the specialists and how many different outfits you can unlock for them, and taunts, and all the really cool things, the emotes. Like, they had a lot of features in that game, and there was a lot of communication between the developers. I love Black Ops 4, but it just, the paywall and no campaign, I think, is what really hurt it for people. But to me, that's the most underrated.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean that's the game that I've had the most fun in like recent times, honestly, is Black Ops 4. Like the maps, the colors, just how it felt, the guns, the best camos, honestly, in my opinion. That had the best camos and the best skins for like your characters. Like, they put effort and thought into it. And
Dark Matter was
the Dark Matter was incredible. And like the reactive camos, like I like the camo that shows how good I'm doing, not just in modern, you get the gold, which the gold's cool, but then after that you put all this effort to get platinum, and platinum's the most boring camo ever. It literally just makes it look silver. It doesn't even look, at least the gold has some spiraling to it and stuff. And then Damascus, it's all right,
worst
but once again,
game camo in history.
It's I would much rather, if they were gonna do Damascus, I would have rather them did a black and white Damascus. And then they came out with that other one. I don't even know what it's called, but it just makes your gun look black, jet black, shiny.
Terrible.
What was that?
Yeah.
And to get it, play 150 matches and get 15 kills, that's a lot of effort for nothing. If it was you said Dark Matter, I would have went for it, but there's nothing.
So I can only hope that with Cold War they get back, Treyarch's able to have that freedom. The biggest problem is, once again, it comes down to money. You start to notice this trend with in Modern Warfare, that the best camos they had, you had to buy in the store, and everything you could earn was pretty boring. So I hope they don't go with that same marquee for
look at even
Cold War.
Comparing the battle passes between Blackout,
Black Ops 4,
and Modern. You wanted to get through the battle pass. This one, you scroll through and you're all right, really the only thing I care about is getting the new guns, and the camos are kind of cool. Oh wait, why would I even want to work to get the camo for the Modern Warfare? Because I hate that sight. That's a horrible sight. Or I don't like that barrel. Oh, but if I take it off, I completely destroy the camo.
Makes no sense.
Who when they were at their like roundtable, whatever, going through like how did that even get like through? Like that was the one of the dumbest
Yeah.
things. There's just way too many issues for Modern Warfare. Um,
We can complain about
yeah, we
Modern
could.
all
Well,
day.
like,
It's one of those things where it's because there was so much. The problem is there was so
So
much
much
potential
potential,
with
yeah.
this year's game, and hopefully because we could only assume that Infinity Ward will do another Modern Warfare, especially with the success this one had in terms of being the most sold Call of Duty of all time. We can only assume they're going to do another Modern. Hopefully they'll embrace the things that people didn't like, other than skill-based matchmaking, because they don't even acknowledge that. But hopefully they can take a lot of the features and change things up. But real quick, before we get into our final major topic, which is what the majority of this video was to be about as far as Cold War coming out and our anticipation for it, one last thing I want to go over real quick, just to ask. We talk about how back in the day Call of Duty, what it meant being with your friends, playing all the time, release dates were like holidays. Does it still feel like that to you? I know you got out of Call of Duty for a little while, you came back. Is it still as exciting to you as it always was when you get that like giddiness, that adrenaline rush when it's time for Call of Duty? Or has it changed for you over the years where it's not as exciting?
So I would say like obviously like it was the greatest thing ever, like in the heyday of like Call of Duty, and like you said, I did get away from it, but then getting back into it now, I would say it's right there at the same. And I think that's just because like part of the reason why I got away from it, a lot of my buddies that I played with, they kind of got away from it, so I really didn't have people to like play with on a regular basis. So fast forward when we met, obviously playing with you, and then you still had people that play. So I would say not so much modern, but whenever we were playing Black Ops 4, we had a good core group of people that played all the time. I still have, like, for this next one, I have that anticipation because it's coming out, and it's one of those, like, everyone's like, yeah, I can't wait for it to come out, but a lot of those people, other than, like, me, you, your brother, Casey, like, everyone else, like, they'll play for, like, a couple weeks, and it kind of dies off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say it's getting there with this one. Modern wasn't so much because, like, there was a lot of disappointment in the game.
Yeah.
But definitely, I would say Black Ops 4, it was just as bad as it was back whenever, like, the OG games came out. And
Yeah, for me, there's still, like, the closer we get to a new Call of Duty come out, I get that excitement. It may not be at the exact hyped up levels when I used to go back to those midnight releases back in the heyday, but it's still definitely there, and I love when you get that adrenaline rush when it's right near release and you're getting ready to play it. The problem that I have, and going right along with what you said, is that fact of back in the day, like when I think of Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1, there was never a time where I could fire up my console and there wasn't at least 5 or more people that I play with that were on at any given time. There was never a time when we didn't have a full squad. Like, you had to fight to get in, or you didn't want to get off the game because everyone was always
you weren't
playing.
sure if you were going to be able to get back
Exactly.
in.
You were going to lose your place. And now it's like we have a group of us that play, but it's a very small group that actually consistently play or play, especially when the game's brand new. Everyone's kind of like, and it's understandable. We're all adults. We've got jobs, responsibilities, families, things like that. So no one's going to have the time to play that we did back then. But I think, honestly, that would be the biggest thing for me, is if we had a consistent group that played all the time. I think the thing I look forward to the most is the thought of, my son, he's only 2, so he still has some time till
I still don't understand why you don't have... I'll wait. Jenna won't let you put a controller in his hand.
If it was up to me, he'd already be playing. But, but whenever he does start to play, if he's just as much into Call of Duty as I am, and he has that excitement, it'll be very fun to share that bond with him and kind of feed off his excitement, because I remember what it was like as a kid and a teenager, waiting for Call of Duty. So I think that'll obviously boost things up too. But this is also for any of our friends that do play Call of Duty with us. I hope you're listening to this, because yes, we're yelling at you. You need to get on more. You need to play more. We need to get the squad going more. And I think that'll make the game better for all of us. and but yeah, I still get
Because
extremely excited.
consistency just like I think that's why like a lot of our buddies don't like to play as much because they get on and like there's always that even like for myself if I don't play for like a couple of days and I go to get on there's that rustiness
Oh,
and
absolutely.
you just feel so weird so like when you have that inconsistency of playing like you get on and like you don't want to like admit that like you're either jealous or there's like that competitive but like if you feel like you're like holding the team back because like you're feeling rusty like
Yeah.
I feel like that might be part of it
too. Yeah, absolutely. So, but we'll see. I mean, but yeah, there's definitely that excitement there. We wouldn't be making this podcast if there wasn't. But now let's talk about what we came here to talk about to try to round out the hour here on the podcast, and that is Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. As like I said at the beginning of this video, as of right now we're recording this. It's November the 8th, so the game is scheduled to come out on the 13th at midnight Eastern time. We've played an alpha, we've played a beta. Now let me real quick back things up here. This has been the weirdest Call of Duty release ever in history. It's been the weirdest story behind the Call of Duty. We go back to 2018, we go back to Call of Duty Black Ops 4, Treyarch. We're in a 3-year cycle. For those of you who may not know this or don't pay attention to these things, you have 3 developers that make Call of Duty games. It used to be just Treyarch and Infinity Ward, but back at the release of Advanced Warfare, you now added in Sledgehammer Games as a 3rd studio. So when Black Ops 4 released in 2018, the next year was going to be Modern Warfare, and then for 2020, this year, it was supposed to be Sledgehammer Games, and we wouldn't see Treyarch again until 2021. So when Black Ops 4 released, Treyarch, David Vonderhaar, the lead spokesperson for Treyarch, said, we plan to do Black Ops 4 content for 2 years. Not 1 year, but we're going to give you content, especially for the Blackout Battle Royale mode, for 2 years. But then something happened. All these mysterious articles were popping up saying something's going on within Treyarch. They may be moving on to make a new Call of Duty. Sledgehammer Games, there's a lot of disarray within the company. And before you know it, in the spring of 2019, we find out that Treyarch is done releasing content or have no future plans beyond the first year, and they are now moved on to make the game that's going to be releasing in 2020. We never got the full story behind it. We know that something went wrong with Sledgehammer. We know that a lot of people left Sledgehammer, and there were rumors that there were disagreements between Activision and what Sledgehammer was doing, and also Raven Studios, who helps out make Call of Duty games. They're in charge of map design and things like that, that they weren't getting along with Sledgehammer. So Sledgehammer's pulled. They're no longer a main developer of Call of Duty. They're basically a side developer that is going to help with certain aspects, and I believe they're working heavily on the mobile version of Call of Duty for mobile phones. And all of a sudden, Treyarch's thrown into the mix. Now they get a year of development cut. They have to rush into making a new game. And then on top of that, in early 2020, we have a pandemic hit, not just the United States, but the world. Their studio is closed down, and the developers are forced to work from home. And on top of that, it's, oh yeah, by the way, we need you to get this game optimized for PS4, Xbox One, PS5, Xbox Series S, and PC, and all, the other little mini versions, Xbox Series S, this whatnot, and have that all ready to go as well. Good luck. And, whenever developers make big mistakes, especially within Call of Duty, or they don't communicate, or there's bugs, I'm very harsh and I'm not very forgiving because of the amount of money these studios and Activision makes. But in this year, if there are some hiccups, I think the Treyarch deserves a break from what they've had to go through. Normally, when we get a new Call of Duty being announced, it typically happens in May of the year that it's coming out, and then usually the multiplayer reveal is in June. This year, we didn't even find out that Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War was a thing until late August. It had been rumored for months, but we didn't even get a reveal till August. We got a surprise alpha for PlayStation in September, and we didn't even play the beta until last month in October, a month before release. So it's been way behind. Announcements and things were, way later than normal, and there's still a lot about this game we don't even know. But with what you've seen so far, John, you've played an alpha, you've played a beta. We're, 5 days technically from release. What are your current thoughts on this game? Are you leaning towards that this is going to be a great year for Call of Duty? Are you leaning towards this is going to be a hiccup? Is this going to be lost potential? Where are you at?
I mean, for me, I feel that this is going to be the game that brings back consoles. I mean, I hate to be like a broken record and constantly talk about PC versus console, but I mean there is an advantage playing against being, because we're both console players, and you can definitely tell that when you die and you watch the kill cam, you're like, he's obviously on PC. Just the snapping, the speed, and so getting into the alpha, getting into the beta, and they're like, there's a field of view slider, which I've used on other games on console, and you can definitely tell a difference. So I feel like the fact that console's finally getting a field of view, because even in like the alpha and the beta, like I could tell when I was playing against PC people, but I also was still turning on them. I was still able to like kind of keep up with that. So I feel like the fact of the upgraded gaming systems, better TVs, it's going to be the year for console gaming. Because unfortunately, like a lot of first-person shooters, a lot of like the big streamers and pros, like they're kind of it's all being pushed towards PC. So you're getting that like tipping of the scale, and I feel like this is going to kind of balance that out. And just all around, like the game for me just felt good. Like I know a lot of people kind of shit on it, didn't like the map designs, the colors. For me, like there was a little bit of like contrast issues of like being able to see the characters or see the enemy, but all in all, like I feel the maps looked beautiful, the game felt good, the guns felt good. And it was one of those like, there was kind of the meta that you had to use. Like, I mean, that shotgun, you couldn't use any other secondary. That shotgun in there was...
The Gala,
the Gala was incredible. It's another one of those like... the SMGs, they all felt good. You didn't feel like you had to use one. I mean, to an extent, like, what was it, the MP5, once again, like, you had to use that. But the only thing... Well, there's two things I'm just going to mention, even though it's not going to get fixed. Skill-based matchmaking is going to be another constant annoyance, but it's one of those, like, I'm not going to hold that against Cold War because it's something I've dealt with, like, constantly. I think the thing that could possibly ruin the game is the sniping. If they don't do something with that, so you're going to have, like, the aim assist on sniper rifles and the ADS is next to nothing, and then no flinch. Even if, like, so you have people that are amazing with a sniper rifle, that's just going to be, like, their bread and butter. But, like, myself, I don't snipe that much. I even was having a easy time using the sniper rifles to an extent. So I feel that's my biggest fear is the sniper rifles. But I think this is going to be one of the greatest Call of Duties.
Yeah, I'll be quick here since we're getting close to wrapping it up, guys. But for me, the field of view was the biggest game changer. For those of you who are like haven't played or are not sure what that means, basically it narrows your field of view, and you feel like you're moving in a much faster speed. You feel like you're throwing things further. If you ever watch somebody on PC, a streamer playing, and you're like, wow, why do they look like they're moving so much faster than me? Or they're able to evade gunfights and jump around corners and move around me before I can even look at them. That's because of field of view. And having that on console changes everything. So that was the biggest thing for me. I also thought the map design was really good. I thought the game, even though it was way more arcadey than what Modern Warfare was, I'm okay with that. It felt very nostalgic. It felt like an old school Black Ops game, and that's not a bad thing for me. I know a lot of people complained about that. They thought the engine felt outdated, the graphics were bad, but for me, I don't care if the graphics are better than Modern Warfare or not, as long as I'm having fun and the game is playing well. And just real
quick, I ask you guys if you don't agree. If you do a side-by-side comparison of the two games, it's really not as drastic as you think it is, or that people want you to think.
Yeah, exactly. The guns, like you mentioned, I thought they were, for the most part, that you could use most guns. Sure, if you're really going sweaty, try hard, there's going to be certain guns in every Call of Duty that most people use, but I felt like this game gave you more ways to use other weapons, especially more than what Modern Warfare did. The maps, no doors, so not as many windows, not as many camping spots. You hardly saw people camping. It was way more run and gun. People were actually playing objectives in the objective game modes. It was very colorful maps like what you usually get with a Treyarch game. The creative class was simplified but still a lot of fun. I thought the perks were good.
And think about like the creative class, wherever you were able to like do your attachments, and it gave you an actual percentage,
full breakdown
so
of
see
what those attachments do. The pluses and minuses. I thought they did a great job. Yeah, my biggest worries with the game, skill-based matchmaking, of course. Yes, I do, and I agree that the sniping needs to be toned down. For people who are good at sniping, it's way, way, way too easy. We came against full squads that were all using sniper rifles, running around like they were assault rifles, and you couldn't stop them, and that's going to be very, very
we still won though.
Annoying.
Barely.
Yeah, barely. We would still win, but barely. So for me, I have a lot of high expectations for this game, but I also the one other thing I'll quickly mention is, like I said, this has been the weirdest, reveal year for a Call of Duty. You're used to finding out things so much sooner, and like I said, there's still a lot we don't know. What scares me the most right now is, other than the 4 maps that were in the beta, the select guns that were in the beta, and perks, we don't know of any more. And normally by this time of the year, either the developers have revealed at least the map names and descriptions, or they're at least leaked out. We don't know if there's any more. And I'll tell you right now, if this game releases and there's 4 6v6 maps, 2 12v12 maps, and 2 Fireteam maps, which was a bigger mapped game mode, and if we only have the 4 assault rifles, 4 SMGs, 2 LMGs, 2 marksman rifles, 2 snipers, and 2 shotguns that were in that beta, and you're telling me I got to wait till future seasons to get more, this game's going to get stale very, very fast.
I mean, the one saving grace with that, I do agree with you, but real quick, one saving grace is you do have zombies, you do have a campaign.
True.
But that's also a concern for me.
But campaign's a one-time play.
I feel like one of those things are gonna lack because like of how quick the game had to come out.
Yeah.
So you have like all these different facets of it.
The other thing too that I'm hoping for is, the one thing that did leak recently was the score streaks, which they have not confirmed whether those are true or not, but based off the images and the points that it takes to earn them, it seemed legit. There was, I think 11 score streaks in the beta. There's 21 leaked. That's double, basically, almost, of what was there. So for me, that's a good sign. Okay, so there's double the kill streaks. I definitely didn't expect there to be that many. So if there's double the kill streaks, hopefully that means there are a lot more guns that haven't been revealed and more maps. But yeah, in the end, I am very much looking forward to this game. I cannot wait to play it. I can't wait to see how Warzone changes over this coming year. We did find out that it's going to be on the same Modern Warfare engine. I'm okay with that as long as they update it to where we could change our field of view on console on Warzone, because if you can only do it in multiplayer, that's going to be a bummer.
It's going to be jarring to go between the two.
But in the end, guys, to wrap this up, we are getting very close to release of not just Call of Duty, but of the next-gen consoles. So for everyone out there that was able to secure one,
F you.
Yeah, it's time. We're there. It's a new year for Call of Duty. Rest assured, we will have a future podcast for you guys to talk about our review of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War and of the next-gen console very soon. After we get some playtime and hours behind it. We hope to do this podcast pretty regularly while things are still tough in terms of the pandemic. We'll also be doing more videos for you guys as well with our Normal Now Showing channel. Right now, John's mainly been taking the helm just because it's been hard for both of us to be able to get together outside of work. But pretty soon we'll both be back to being on the videos, and we've got a lot of content. I believe, John, correct me if I'm wrong, our second episode of the podcast we plan to do is going to be horror movie related.
Yeah.
Sort of like how we talked about our history of Call of Duty, we plan to talk about our history of horror, how we got into it, our favorite memories and movies as kids and things like that. So definitely check that out. And yeah, we're going to have a lot more content coming the way. Now Showing's about to be, fully back up and running again. And we're very excited about that. So we want to thank everyone for joining. This is the first podcast, so I'm not sure exactly at the moment what all platforms. We're still working out what it's all going to be on. It'll certainly be on YouTube, and John's working on getting it onto other platforms. So definitely, if you're watching this, or should I say listening to this on YouTube, please leave that like and subscribe to the channel so you can be alerted when new podcasts and videos go live. And once again, signing off, this is Now Showing. I'm Cam.
I'm John.
And I hope you guys enjoyed episode 1, and we'll see you all on Call of Duty.